Hey guys, John here. I just want to answer a question posed by Rhaegar the Dragonborn. The question being, if time travel was possible, and I could go back in time and talk to myself at the start of my career as a GM, what 5 pieces of advice would I give myself? So, here goes. Number 1, focus on my strengths. I believe that every person, when they GM, or storytell, whatever you want to call it, has strengths and weaknesses. And I would tell myself to focus on those strengths. Now, I'm not saying that I shouldn't focus on my weaknesses at all and just let them lay there untouched and hope that they never come up during the course of gameplay. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that your strengths define your style as a GM and as a player. Now, you may be thinking that as a beginning GM, you don't perhaps know what your strengths are. But you do in a sense. You do in the sense that you know what you enjoy about role-playing, what you enjoy about the setting, what you enjoy as a player, what you've enjoyed from other GMs. So you already have an idea in your head of what you like, what you don't like, and your personal style. And you should be playing a game, playing a setting, and running that game in your style, in a style that is comfortable to you and that is fun to you. Especially when you're starting out, you need to really embrace the things that you're good at, and the other things you'll work on, of course, the weaknesses, but they'll come over time. You know, really don't worry about those. Focus on the things that you're good at, and let that sort of define your gaming style, at least at the beginning of your career. The second thing I would say would be to have fun with characters. I suppose this sort of goes hand in hand with focusing on my strengths, because I'm fairly good at taking on characteristics and mannerisms and cadences and voices and personality character quirks, and I have a lot of fun doing that sort of thing. When I first started storytelling, I was really inside my head. I was kind of nervous, and I was really tense. I should have just, you know, had fun with these characters in these situations, and I did have fun with them, but I should have just really, you know, embracing the strength. That's one of my strengths, and it's one of the things that I enjoy about role-playing, is affecting these different characters. And I've always been fairly good at it, inside of role-playing and outside of role-playing. But when I first started a GM, that wasn't really on my radar. I was too concerned with the rules and the setting and getting everything right and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, no, just, you know, have fun with this character and this situation. And that kind of actually ties into the third point, which would be, don't worry about too much at once. I don't know if everyone... certainly everyone doesn't have this problem, but I'm sure that some people do. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But like I said, when I first started to storytell, I had too much going on in my head. I guess if you want to use the analogy of dice, you know, it's like when players take actions, it's, you know, dominoes. When players take action, it's like a domino effect, and it's like, okay, this scene will take us to here, and this will take us to here, and oh, you've established that with this character, so he'll probably do this for you, or against you, or whatever. So, when you're doing scenes, when that domino effect starts, or when you're role-playing, for whether it be the beginning, the middle, or any part in the narrative, when you're role-playing and that domino effect is going, when the players push down domino number 1, worry about dominoes 2, 3, and 4. Don't worry about dominoes 14, 78, and 102. You know, that's way down the line, and that we'll get to that bridge when we get to it. Not that, you know, in your downtime outside a game you think about that sort of thing, but in the moment, role-playing, just have fun in the scene, the situation of the moment, and let that build, and, you know, focus on entertaining the group and yourself with what's going on right now, and what's going to happen after that will come. You don't need to worry about what's for all intents and purposes, if you want to simplify it, just focus on the scene and nothing else outside of that reality. Of course, this scene will affect the rest of that reality, but when you're starting out, just have fun with that scene. You know, don't have too much going on at once, because it'll bog you down, and then your scene won't be what it could have been because you were too far in your head. So, the fourth piece of advice would be, don't limit yourself to people. What I mean by that is, don't always roleplay with the same group of people. Switch it up between games, between campaigns. And don't be concerned, you know, sometimes you're great friends with someone in real life, but perhaps your role-playing styles don't meld. Or perhaps they're not committed to gaming. Or perhaps your schedules don't work. Or perhaps this, that, and the other thing that gets in the way of you actually being able to have a game or a campaign with your best friend or a good friend. Don't worry about it. You know, sometimes it's more fun to game actually with people that have vastly different political views. And of course I'm friends with people that have vastly different views than I am. But it's really fun to game and to have that because you're gaming. You don't need to necessarily be friends to game with someone. I mean, assumably you have to be able to stand the guy or girl, at the very least. But you know, you can have your friends and you can have your gaming buddies, and sometimes your friends can be your gaming buddies, your friends from outside of gaming, but don't feel the need to stick to your real life friends, your friends that that you've met prior to gaming or outside of that. Don't feel the need to only stick with them, you know. Get involved with the gaming community on YouTube or on some online forum, or if you live in a big city, at your local gaming store, or start going to conventions, you know. Meet new people, start doing new games with new groups of people. And I think if I did that earlier, I would have become a much better player and storyteller a lot faster, because I would have had a lot more influence, and I wouldn't have, you know, gotten bogged down by people that maybe didn't particularly want to roleplay as much as I did, or in the way that I did. And that, again, sort of ties into my fifth point, which is don't get discouraged. Just in general, just because a game doesn't work out, just because a campaign fails, maybe the players don't receive the setting or the system quite the way that you thought they would. Perhaps they don't really grasp it in the way that you do, to such an extent that the game is just not, you know, you just keep hitting speed bumps, and sometimes things just don't work out, like I said, for schedule reasons or real life or whatever it is. But don't get discouraged. If you have a fun time doing it, then keep doing it. Keep doing the hobby. Find new and different people to game with, and, you know, maybe someday down the road you can come back and game with these other people. But don't get discouraged because a session or a game fails. That's par for the course. That's learning. I'm sure that in my future, I know for a fact that I'll have sessions and games that probably aren't that great and that even fail. But I'll learn from those, and my sessions and games after those could be even better, which is just the point of things after all, right? Is to get better. If you're not getting better, then something's wrong. So, there's my 5 bits of advice that I would give myself if I could time travel. So, speaking to the time travel side of things, if time travel, of course, was possible, and I went back and told myself all this, and then I came back to the future, or I suppose the present for us now, or this will be the past by the time you're watching the video. Let that stew in your brain cauldron for a minute. But anyway, if I spoke to myself in the past and then came back to this time, would this be a different reality, where now I've made different choices based on the advice that I gave myself, and I would come back surrounded by people that meant nothing to me in a place that I'd never seen before? Or would that perhaps spark a tangent universe that would be well and fine on its own. However, when I came back to the present, or future, whatever it is, when I came back to the now, would it still be the same? Would it be a tangent universe, or would I have affected my own universe? That is the question that I pose to you, Rhaegar Dragonborn.